Welcome back to my EVO build blog series. In this episode, we're going to talk about fixing some minor issues on the EVO now that it's up and running, and also talk about doing a little dirt track spectator racing. So what's all happened to the EVO since the last video? Well, a couple things. We got our radio installed, pretty simple. I did have a radio relocation kit in this car because I have the 3 gauges in the spot where the normal radio location would be. So the radio has been moved a little bit lower, so I bought a kit for that and had that all set to go. Went and picked up a radio and got that installed. And I also took care of a few minor issues. Basically, I had an oil leak that I took care of by basically adding a crush washer to the oil drain plug that goes in the oil pan. And then there was a fuel leak issue that was going on the passenger side of the EVO. Basically, that fuel sending unit gasket was getting bad. I think it was just old, fatigued, just because it was probably the OEM from gasket for all I know. But this gasket right here, this part number that you see is the gasket you need just in case you ever do change this gasket on this side, because there were 2 different ones that kind of came up when I tried to order these parts, and the person was actually very helpful that got me the OEM parts and told me that, hey, this is probably the one you need. I actually had them send both just so I could compare, and actually this is the other gasket that they sent me, and this is obviously was the wrong one for what I wanted to change. So if you do need to change that fuel sending unit gasket for the part that's on the passenger side, this part number here on the screen is the one you need. I also changed the speed sensor. So the speedometer in my car was basically really bouncy when it started working, and it almost always took like 10 minutes driving before it would even get off of 0. It was throwing a check engine light code, service engine soon code, stuff like that. So I had to get that taken care of too. So I bought a new OEM speed sensor right here. This is actually the old one that I took out. It was a pretty easy swap, but I did document it all, and I will hopefully make a how-to video about that in the future as well. So those were some of the minor tweaks just to make this EVO a little bit more roadworthy that I got taken care of. We did a little bit more refinement on the tune as well, and basically we actually kind of did that while we were at my local dirt track. Hopefully you've already seen my video of my EVO winning the Spectator Races. I do need to clarify, I was not driving. I am definitely not good enough to power slide all the way through the corner like Andy was, which was quite a show. So let me explain a little bit about the Spectator Races and what they are all about. Basically, it's supposed to be for people that would come to this, local dirt track and watch the race cars go around, but you could bring your regular car out there. You're just a spectator, you bring your spectator car out, and basically you line up against one other spectator car. So there's 2 cars out on the track, and you go from a standing start, you make 1 lap around the track, and the first person to the finish line wins, moves on to the next round, and you get eliminated, obviously, as soon as you lose. There's a 4 and a 6 cylinder class and a V8 class. Well, believe it or not, if you watched my video, my EVO was running in the V8 class right from the get-go. But unfortunately, the one main car, the car that always wins, 600 some-ish horsepower rumored Camaro, that usually always wins the Spectator Races, ended up breaking. So we really didn't have a challenge for the spectator racing. Basically, Andy's a good enough driver. He figured out the track well enough. I think we had the car set up well enough where it really just kind of dominated everybody, which was really cool. We're gonna hopefully try it again in a month when the car will actually be painted by then. I kind of want to do the spectator races before the car was painted, just because obviously it's not too friendly to bring your car out to a clay and dirt racing track on the paint, but what the hell? I mean, it's not going to be a show car anyways, no matter what, but we'll just do it, have fun with the car. I mean, that's what it's all about, just getting your car out and racing it and having fun. A couple other things to point out about the spectator racing is you actually did need 400 treadwear or higher tires to compete in the V8 class. So it was a bit hard to find 400 treadwear tires in the size I wanted, but I did find some Dunlop tires that seem to work pretty well, obviously, since we ended up winning, so that was great. And if you haven't seen my spectator race video yet, I'm just gonna break it down a little bit here because I actually find it kind of funny. My EVO basically lines up first race against this big boat of a New Yorker, I guess. I don't know, it's just a big old car. But then the announcer actually says, you know, fan favorite, who do you think is going to win? Who thinks EVO's going to win? There's a couple people like, yeah.
Who's got the Mitsubishi? Who's got the New Yorker? New Yorker, fan favorite.
And I was just like, fan favorite, New Yorker. And then Andy didn't even launch the car, but he smokes him off the line and then just beats him by half track. So it was pretty funny. And then after that, the next race was against a V8 swapped like Chevy Lumina. The car's actually done pretty well in the past. So Andy had a really good launch against him, beat him off the line, and then you can see the Lumina kind of stayed with him a little bit coming in the first corner. But then Andy pretty much walked away from him and then did a nice, awesome power slide through the last corner. That was pretty cool to watch as well. And then the final race wasn't much of a challenge either, so Andy ended up winning the Spectator Races with my car, and that's one of the first events that my EVO basically got to compete in, so that was pretty cool. So what's going on now with the EVO? Well, the EVO's not even here in my garage, because if you follow me on social media, I've been Snapchatting and Instagramming stuff about my car in the body shop. So my car is actually in the body shop right now getting body work done. So hopefully it'll be all one color. It'll have a nice paint job on it. There's a really cool local body shop, Kumo Customs and Collisions. Really nice place. They're actually letting me kind of do some of the work on it, so that's great. Obviously you guys know I spent a lot of time building this car, so for me to just have a little bit more hands-on experience with the body work is just kind of something I wanted to do. Even though they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I'm doing a little bit more of the time-consuming prep work, taking it apart and then just sanding things down, getting things ready for paint. They're fixing a lot of dents and dings and doing the actual painting of it. So I'm pretty excited to hopefully get this car back, and maybe in the next episode it'll just be one color and a nice looking car. I also ordered an ethanol content fuel analyzer gauge. Finally, I was going to do that for a long time, but that'll be my third gauge pod in my gauge pillar. So hopefully that will come in soon, and I'll get that hooked up so I know a little bit more about what's going on with the fuel I'm getting, and if my car is acting goofy any way, I would at least be able to narrow down if my gas is, not up to the content level that I need it to be. And speaking of gauges, I also took the time to try to calibrate my Pro Sport wideband gauge, and it didn't really seem to change too much. When we did the initial tune on my car, Andy put his AEM wideband in, and I had my Pro Sport gauge in there as well. And honestly, I don't like the Pro Sport. It just doesn't seem to be reading very well or very accurately. I guess that's kind of why I tried to play with it and calibrate it, because I thought maybe that would help. But no matter what, it seems that that Pro Sport gauge reads richer than it really is. So that's not good if you're trying to tune your car and you think you're tuning it, at mid 11s, but you're actually running, low 12s, because that's about how far mine was off. It was about 0.7, 0.8 off from the AEM that we had in. So I guess I just kind of throw this out there to find out if you guys have any information. Have you guys ever ran a Pro Sport wideband? I know they're not as well known as AEM. AEM definitely seems to be the gauge you usually want to go with, and I actually do have one ordered and on the way, so I am going to put an AEM in there. But just curious if anyone else has had any experience with the Pro Sport gauges and them being good, bad, working, not working. Let me know your experiences in the comments section. So that's about it for this episode of the EVO build blog, vlog, series, whatever we want to call it. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, check out the One Lap of America documentary. The feedback's been great so far. I appreciate everyone watching that. I appreciate the support on that. So check that out as well if you haven't. And stay tuned for the next episode.